all destroyed, guys, by now, pretty much. But we showed the process and where they were buried and all that. In 2010, when we released the first list of mass graves, not one media, not one cop, not one activist, online group did a thing about it. Showed absolutely no interest. Now you can show interest because it's the official government spin, so you're permitted to think about it. And that's what the whole Kamloops fiasco is all about. And it's worked. People now don't remember anything about what we had brought up, pretty much. So it's, again, MKULTRA, part of the memory swabbing that has to happen every few years, right?
Danny wants to know, do you believe that Manurian candidates are currently walking amongst the general population?
Of course, but they were an early stage of this. Just look in the mirror and you'll see a Manurian candidate, frankly. We're all being influenced by this. We're all being guided in our actions, you know, or inactions. So, I mean, start at home, right? Start with your own situation.
Don't know if this is possible to estimate, or it might be reaching here. Shakina, do we know how many people have been impacted through MKULTRA programs worldwide?
Well, it was huge, you know, in the millions, but now, like we say, because it's generalized into the whole way the system operates, we're all being affected by it, impacted.
There was some brutal experiments done by the Japanese on the Chinese. Right. During wars that paralleled, what was it?
Unit 321 in Manchuria.
That's it. Read some books.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, read some books about that unit, folks. You think the Nazis were bad? Bloody hell.
Well, they were also used Allied prisoners of war, and a lot of Chinese civilians in that, and just vivisected. And okay, so the chemical experimentation on that was also happening in Canada. At Suffield, Alberta, they had chemical warfare testing done on soldiers and children before World War II and not just after, right? So Canada and Nazi Germany had a defense sharing agreement and experimental sharing agreement before the war ever broke out. Mackenzie King, the Canadian Prime Minister, was a real fan of Hitler, like a lot of the British elites, right? And so a lot of the stories we get were from the 30s, not just post-World War II, right? But these Nazi experimenters.
Including the royals were fans of the Nazis. All right, so Kathleen, and related to them, Kathleen wants to know, do you know about the CIA connection to the Robert Monroe Institute using the Hemiync?
No, I don't even know what that is. Hemiync?
I don't know what that is. Never heard of it. What about the secret space program? One woman was a participant of this program at a young age, and they used her to multiply her personality. I've not heard of that either.
No.
Okay. What was the Canadian Nazi doctor's tattoo of? Do all the cult members have the same tattoos?
The SS had any member of the SS was branded right there with a tattoo. And we got information from one of the offshoots of the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Vienna, who had documented, according to the SS tattoo number, who it was. And we cross-referenced that particular tattoo that Gail Perkins saw at the Calgary Air Force Base. And it was this Heinz Lehmann, who was brought in under paperclip, who worked at Thunder Bay Medical Center, Lakehead Psychiatric Hospital, and to develop chlorpromazine and some of these mind-controlling drugs.
All right, next question is, thank you for Super Chat, Mark. Firm handshakes, appreciated. And we have got, let's see. Susie wants to know, what do you think is going on with all the missing women in the Highway of Tears in BC?
China. More and more, it's Chinese run. Now, the Highway of Tears is old, you know, because it's northern BC, and it's always sat on a lot of resources. So, you know, you got to terrorize people off the land. It's the oldest game in the book. But in the last 20 years, China is switching from coal to liquid natural gas. BC and Alberta have a lot of that, oil and gas. Some of the biggest oil reserves in the world are the Alberta tar sands, which is now pretty much Chinese owned, thanks to the Trudeau and previous other governments. They even stationed their troops up there. Now we know, because we've documented, and it's one of the things we're documenting right now, is the terror campaigns against whole native families along the Highway of Tears. Because if you look where the liquid natural gas sites are, they're all along the Highway of Tears in that area. between Prince Rupert, the Superport, China-owned Superport, and Prince George across northern BC. So it's money, but it's also the continuation, also the continuation of what has been going on, where local native chiefs will traffic their own children. It's one of the things they've got to do to stay in power. The native chiefs are also the ones signing the big oil and gas deals with China directly without it going through the Canadian government. So it's all that, you know, more and more. And I know for over a quarter century, I've worked, going back actually almost 40 years, half the people you meet on the street, homeless native people, they all say the same thing. We got driven off our land by our chief in the pay of some big company, and now we're living down and dying here on the street. I mean, it's institutionalized.
Has Kevin heard of the Lonnie Landrid case in BC?
No, but if that's the right spelling, yeah, I'll check it out.
Has he heard of the telepathy tapes involving severely autistic children?
Not specifically, no.
So Teresa, not Teresa, where is it? I had a question here. Oh, Lottie. Lottie wants to know if the people running these experiments have a conscience about it. She's saying these people are intelligent, influential, and academic. Don't they, you know, have a conscience about what they do?
Conscience is relative. I mean, you know, the most religious people in the world are the people more prone to kill than an atheist, and that's just been proven, you know, in tests and everything. Conscience is completely flexible in according to your own cultural values. I mean, they found when most of the guards who operate in death camps, they're completely sane people, and they love their children, and they go home at night, and it's only a small percentage that are psychopaths, because we haven't evolved to the point where the human life of a stranger is equally as important as our own life. And until we get to that point, of course, you're going to have this stuff by humane people. So we got to redefine what good and evil is, right? These are morally ambiguous terms, I think.
So Shell is asking whether some native chiefs are compliant.
All native chiefs are compliant. Now, all government native chiefs in Canada operate according to the Indian Act, where they're not citizens, they're wards of the Crown, they're trustees of the government, administering Crown land for the Crown. They don't last 3 seconds if they go against that. And I know, because I've worked with a lot of these guys, they're the ones dealing the drugs on reserve. They're kept in power by the government. So you can't operate. It's like being a Catholic bishop or whoever. You don't operate in the system unless you're part. The people on the ground, the traditional elders, they're the only ones who have ever worked with us, and they can be gotten rid of very easily. So that's why these traditional people don't tend to be public, right?
Natalie wants to know, is MKUltra turning a person into a slave by enslaving their mind?
Yeah, but in a way, you know, sure it does. But two things on that. A, you want to have, it's like hypnosis. It's hard to hypnotize somebody if they don't want to be, unless they've been so battered and weakened. It's like an immune system, a mental immune system. If it's down, you tend to get sick. But so there has to be some compliance. It's like in our talking circles, we always say, you're never a victim. You're always cooperating to some degree with creating your own situation. You can always say no. You can always fight these people to the death. If you choose not to, you're an architect of your own situation. There's no them doing it to us. We're also doing it to ourselves. But the other thing is, and here's a bigger question I always have, why do you need to mind control the whole population? Because by the system, 90% of people are already compliant. So really, what is the purpose of mind control when they've got people pretty much under wraps already? And that's an open-ended question. I don't have an answer for that. Maybe people have their own thoughts about that, but I'm in a way at it. It's kind of redundant when you think about it, right?
Well, as well as controlling the masses, aren't there other objectives such as creating assassins? I mean, if you look at Saran,
right?
Wouldn't that be a case in point?
Yeah, functionally they serve that purpose. I'm not saying they don't, but the extent of it, the massive amounts they put into, like with the iPad devices and everything, is it just about money? You know, which in our culture, it usually just comes down to a question of money. Maybe it's because it's so lucrative. they get all those devices out there, and you know, to hell with the effect on human beings, right? Like with any corporate product.
So Clarissa, I'm interested to know if this also involves the Dukeabar children in BC in the 50s.
Yeah, they were arresting the Dukeabars were a pacifist Christian group, and they didn't believe in vaccines. They didn't believe in getting into the system, so they got heavily targeted by the RCMP. They were arrested. They were treated a lot of the way like Native people. They were put in special schools. And you're frozen there, Shaun. I just want to make sure we're not frozen. Did you hear all
No,
that?
I'm fine. Your internet's a bit iffy, but we're fine. We're fine. Keep going.
Okay, well, so Dukeabars were treated a lot like Native people and targeted, you know, in that way. But it's interesting. I knew some Dukeabars in central British Columbia, and they told me that their early settlers in around the 1920s were told by the government and the Indian agent that if they would get land, if they could produce a certain number of fingertips from local Indians. So, you know, title land was guaranteed by proof that you had killed Indians and bring in their ears or their fingertips. And that's how the Dukeabars got their land. So, I mean, you know, white settlers, you all participate to some degree, right? Early on.
Wow. All right, folks, we've got 20 minutes to the hour. Please get your final questions in for Kevin now. And don't forget, if you want way more information on these subjects, Kevin's written tons of books, 20 plus books, and he's got other broadcasts, links that are all down there. So Carol, Carol, MKULTRA in the tag. Hi, Kevin. Did you hear about Mylene Hebert, a survivor from Quebec? She's 41 years old now. She tried to go against the DPJ Director of Protect of the Child. Could you help her?
There's so many stories like this I get every day, cries for help. Yes, absolutely. You've got my email there, angelfire101@protonmail.com. Just write to me, get her in touch with me. We've got people in Quebec who work all the time. You know, so yes, please contact us.
Yeah, we've interviewed a few people who were in prison with Saran, and they questioned him, and Saran just had no knowledge of what he'd done. And then you're in a catch-22. If you can't say you did it and take responsibility and say you were sorry, then they never let you out. All right, next question then. Let's see. How much? Oh, here we go. Where do I find your books in German? The ones that have been translated yet?
Unfortunately, the only book in German is, there's a version of Murder by Decree, and I've done a lot of articles, and some of our Unrepentant, our first documentary, I think, has German subtitles. Best thing to do is write to me, and I'll you know, put you in touch with people who know more about that.
Thanks for the super chat, AJ. Should we be afraid of Neuralink?
What is that?
That is the Elon Musk. I'll give you the definition of it.
Oh,
where he's linking the brain.
Prince of Darkness.
Oh,
yeah.
Neuralink is pioneering brain-computer interfaces. That's how it's been sold, creating a generalized brain interface to restore autonomy. And they're saying it's for unmet medical needs and to unlock human potential. Founded by Elon Musk, 8 scientists and engineers. It was launched in 2016, first reported in 2017.
Okay, so that's a name for what I was talking about earlier, the interface and integration into a cybernetic organism of the human mind and these electronic systems, right? That's the enemy, that's the agenda, that's the omnicide agenda, to exterminate Homo sapiens, you know, make us Homo machina.
Getting asked the big question here: who's at the top?
There isn't in a system like this. There isn't anyone at the top. It's a self-perpetuating corporatocracy. People come and go, you know. And anyway, people involved, people in charge, you never see. You know, you see their hand puppets. You see the people who you're supposed to see, but no. And I don't think it's about individuals anyway. It's about a whole system we're in, right? How you dismantle.
Have you heard of Russ Dizdar book, The Black Awakening?
No.
Sounds like a good one, though. I think we might have had Russ on, or I spoke to Russ at one point in time. Is there anyone in the Vatican that can be trusted? That's from Shannon.
There are people at the lower level of the Vatican in administrative capacity in the Vatican Library who've given us really important information. Like this latest case against Robert Prevost, Mr. Leo, where apparently, and I haven't seen this, the court prosecutor has, but it'll come out in the court trial in the fall, that there's an actual log in the secret Vatican archives showing the Ninth Circle ceremonies going back to at least 1870 with a list of all the participants. So yes, insiders provide us really important stuff. Within the clerical hierarchy, of course not. You don't last more than at all if you're at all honest and you're trying to bring this stuff out. So, you know, I mean, I have personal experience of that.
Does Kevin see a link between Canadian, Indigenous, and Deuteronomy curses?
Well, that was a justification all along, not just in Canada, but Vatican-led genocide from the beginning. In Deuteronomy, it says, when you enter the land God has given you to possess, you are just to destroy all the inhabitants, men, women, children, animals, everything. Do not worship, follow their customs, destroy every one of them. It's the prescription for genocide, religious-led genocide.
Thoughts on spiritual prayer practices to counteract the evil in the world?
Well, it's a whole topic in itself. It's kind of hard to get into that. I did. Yeah, I mean, it's personal. So, you know, I remember one of my friends, Gantanado Horn, she's a Mohawk elder. I was on a TV interview with her, and they said that, talk about native spirituality. She said, I can't, because the minute you put it into words, it loses its power, it loses its meaning. It's the unspoken, right? It's like anything very beautiful in the world. It's like the day my daughters were born and I helped deliver them. How do I put that into words? How do you put into words that you love somebody, right? Like you can't. Great evil and great goodness can't be described. And that's why I think writing a book on spirituality, I mean, it's commentary. It's like the difference between the wind and the weather report describing it. You know, the wind you just experience, right? Breath, pneuma, it comes from all of us, but you know, you can't. So I don't even start there. But I'm alive because of my own sense of that, my own, whatever you want to describe it.
What's your best book on the Ninth Circle?
There hasn't been a good book on the Ninth Circle. There's a lot of evidence about it. I don't think anyone's done a book yet on it.
When are you going to do one?
Well, the thing is, to do a good book on that, you have to be quoting witnesses. And the fact of quoting witnesses puts them in extreme danger because the opposition isn't stupid. They'll know from the comments who it is and they'll be gone, right? So it's a difficult thing to do. I mean, so anyway, I'm open to any suggestions about the best way to do that, you know.
What about the Cfield Plume on the civil population? I mean, that happened here when I was a kid, I think. Radioactive material was leaked from Sellafield nuclear site in Cumbria, which had environmental and health impacts, contaminated Irish Sea and nearby populations. These are periodically, they have these leaks, don't they?
Yeah, like I said about the U.S. Air Force seeding the clouds. I just don't understand how the population put up with this stuff. That's a whole question itself. Why do people go along with the system when they know it's killing them, right? It isn't just about apathy or feeling helplessness, because, you know, if you know your back's to the wall, it's a natural human instinct to fight, just as it is to defend your children to the death. But when those things are missing, then yeah, the soul is being really tampered with in a big way, right?
Why has the Monarchs Portrait been removed from Canadian courtrooms?
Well, it hasn't. The flag has been removed from Canadian courtrooms. The only symbol now in Canadian so-called courtrooms, and these aren't courts of law, they're administrative tribunals that operate outside the rule of law. But the only symbol in there now is the Crown of England, City of London image, the corporate image, not any Canadian nationhood.
Why can't the public go into areas of the Vatican, and why do we just accept it?
Well, because there's all sorts of horrible things going on, and because the evidence of these things is buried in the secret Vatican archives, and they are a power unto themselves, like anywhere in the world. They can do whatever they want. So you're taking your life in your hands if you go in there, unless you go in with a big army.
Do you see a forever breakdown in the family?
Yeah, it's meant to be destroyed, and I think it's working pretty much.
Does MKUltra and the care homes overlap? They prey on the people from care homes for experiments, don't they?
Absolutely. That's a big recruiting ground for a lot of these experiments. But it's beyond MKUltra now, just a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
Have you heard of the Hitler Project in South Africa?
No.
Do you think there will ever be justice for those experimented on by the US government? Good luck.
Justice as in what? Like the system defines justice as you get a monetary settlement and you're gagged. That's not helping you, that's helping the people who did it. So there is no such thing as justice in the system. And there's no accountability. That's why you got to get out of the system and create your own justice. That's our whole philosophy of the common law courts.
You get a monetary settlement if you're lucky. They try and tie you up with lawfare for years and hope that you die.
Yep.
Before you get your settlement, as we've seen with many of the soldiers who claim to have Gulf War syndrome. They just tied those guys up. They died prematurely because of the exposure to certain things, and
that's the strategy. Yep.
Yeah. Professor Hemiync was the best-selling novelist and academic Umberto Eco read into the Vatican Agenda.
I don't know. I mean, what's that book he wrote about the monks? I liked it, but I was kind of naive and stupid back then. The Name of the Rose, was that it? It's about this
I watched the movie.
Weird activities going on in monasteries in northern Italy and that. So who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Really creepy. Have you been on Professor Hemiynck's channel yet, Kevin?
No.
Well, I think that would be a good collaboration. We've known Professor H for a while here, and he's a friend of the channel, and he's in academia, and his specialty is like the CIA infiltration of academia and controlling the population for music and stuff like that.
We need to talk.
I think that would be. I would love to see you guys do something together. We've answered all of the questions, Kevin. Is there anything you would like to say in conclusion to the viewers?
Just that you got all my contact info on that, and we'll keep you updated as fall approaches with this new court case and new talks I'll be giving around. And 3 areas that I'm working on: the West Coast transgender trafficking thing that's coming out, operating out of church camps, the private prison campaign in America, and of course the court case in Europe about the present Robert Prevost. And I just urge people to go beyond talking and thinking about it, taking action. There's a big new network forming in England to support our work, and so contact me and we'll plug into all that. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you guys want to watch a follow-up video, we've got Anna Lee, MKUltra survivor. I'll put that one in the chat as well in a minute. But I'll huge thank you to Kevin. I'll let you go and I'll close the show. And I hope to see you soon, my friend. Take care.
You too, brother. Thanks, Shaun.
Bye. Cheers, Kevin. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, guys. So MKUltra tunnel survivor Anna Lee. It's absolutely mind-blowing. I'm putting it in the live chat right now if you want to watch another video on this subject. If you're watching it on replay, it's also in the description box. It's at the top. We've got links to Kevin's other parts as well, of which there are many. We've got Kevin's website. His email is down there. You don't need to email me anymore. If you want me to forward your email to Kevin, you can email him directly. And you've got some of his other broadcasts. We've also got Zachary King, Ex-Satanist, Part 1 down there. But yeah, I really enjoy these live streams on Saturday evening. I'm speaking to Lionel right now, just trying to finalize the time with him. Would love to get Professor Hemiynck on. And we have got a new guest called Gwaine Towler. coming on to talk about Keir Starmer destroying the UK and whether civil war is coming. That's on June 30th, 2 p.m. UK. I do believe that is Monday. And we've got loads more content coming up. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm going to go and chill. Oh, there's Professor Ham. I'm going to go and chill with baby Ziggy. And Daryl, I did forward your email to that person. So hopefully you will get a response soon. And let me know if you can come on as well. Would love to get you on. All right, I'm going to end this one, go and chill out with baby Ziggy and Jen.